Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Thank you very much for being with us today. Oh, let's see here. We'll get rid of that little top. There we go. It's January 13th, 2023. We're very glad you're with us this morning. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. If anybody has any good news they'd like to share, we'll then have everybody do their 30-second introductions. We'll then go to committee reports. We'll hear about PIC crew, the interview success workshop, the career tip of the week, and then we'll have our main event right about the top of the hour. Oop, there we go. All right, it's been 3 weeks. I haven't been hitting buttons for 3 weeks now, so I'm a little rusty here. All right, for those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can unmute your mic, or if you like to just put your comments or your question in the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, if you want to enter your questions into the comment field, we are monitoring that feed and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job and asked who wanted to take over, and I somehow got volunteered, and I've been doing it ever since. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched the second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I usually have copies with me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Remember, your resume and your LinkedIn profile is not going to get you a job. What it will do is it'll get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. All right, well, we like to start the meeting off with good news, with success stories. Do we have any landings out there? Anybody like to announce? You're welcome to unmute your mic. Anybody? Going once, going twice? Nobody emailed me this week, so that's why I didn't know much. Okay, well, when you do land, please let us know so we can hear your success story. All right, what we'd like everybody to do now is, if you will, for those people who are online, in the Zoom chat window or on the Facebook comment field, please put in your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. For everybody here in person, you've filled out little slips of paper so I can get you added to the roster, which I'll do. We'd like everybody to please do so, because when you do this, I will be able to update the roster. If you're using this as a Texas workforce or a workforce thing, you'll get the roster. Also, I will send out the roster with the email addresses to everybody this afternoon. So we'll be able to, you'll get a copy of what we're talking about today, as long as I know that you're with us today. So we'll give 30 seconds on the clock for those online. All right, please continue to go ahead and do that. There's a bunch of people online who haven't done this yet. So here we go. There's another one popped in here. All right. For those people who are here in person, we're going to allow everybody here who's in person to give us their little 30-second introductions. We want to know what your name is, what you do, what do you provide, what do you do, give us contact names and what your name is. So I will pass the mic around and you all may tell us who you are.
Good morning. My name is Gary Stillman. I'm a medical salesperson. Expertise and experience in leading national sales forces, especially by developing new accounts. Uh, Need contacts with Osteomed, Orthofix, and AmerisourceBergen Specialty Division. I'm Gary Stillman.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Hi, I'm Rob Maxim. I recently graduated. I don't currently have a job yet, but I am looking to get into the media, hopefully doing something with video editing. And I don't really have 2 to 3 target companies that I'm thinking of working with yet. And my name's Rob Maxim.
Great, Rob. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Archery. I'm a retail specialist / manager. My target companies are the federal government, Costa, and Advantage Solution. Again, Anthony Archery.
Thank you, Anthony.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is David Carey, and I'm an experienced talent development leader. I help companies to be successful by aligning a learning strategy with the organization's objectives. And I'm looking for contacts at First United Bank and Veritex Bank. And again, my name is David Carey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Just hold on to the mic because we'll do open forum. That way y'all can pass it around here. All right, let's see here. Where's spotlight? All right, let's see here. Career fairs, job fairs. If you happen to know any, if you're there's a website out there that, I guess I went one too far. There we go. Want to just mention about 2 different websites, careerdfw.org, careerusa.org, 2 totally free websites that are out there to have they help you in your job search. One of the things that's on the Career DFW website is a series of calendars that have free events on there. Job fairs are in pink, special workshops are in gold. The networking groups that are meeting in blue, that are meeting in person are in blue, webinars are in purple. So there's all sorts of great information there. Please check out the calendars if you've never done so before. Let me just talk a second about the practice interview team. The Dallas Pick Crew, as I mentioned before, your resume, your LinkedIn profile is not going to get you a job. It gets you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So the Dallas Pick Crew, it's totally free. All you need to do is you need to send in a resume and a job description and what your availability is 2 to 3 days out or 3 to 4 days out. Let them know what you'd like to do. Don't wait until that last minute and they say, oh, I got an interview tomorrow. Can you give me an interview today? That's not going to happen. Practice. Their motto is practice early, practice often. Give them an opportunity to get ready. Give yourself that opportunity to be good at what you do, to practice on what you do. This way you're able to be prepared for that interview. Be prepared for that interview question. This can be at any part of any time. I mean, just find a job description online if you want. You don't have to have anything in particular. Find something you'd like to do online. Send that that resume or that job description in along with your resume, and they will conduct an interview. Let them know what stage you are. Just tell them this is a practice, or this is my 3rd interview with the company, and they will specialize what it is they do. It's usually a panel interview. It lasts about an hour and 15 minutes. It'll be about a 40-minute interview and about 15 or 20 minutes of feedback, which you don't get feedback when you go to a real interview. So give them a shot. All you have to do is send that information in to dallaspickcrew@gmail.com. If you want more information, you can go to dallaspickcrew.com to find out more information there. Walt is not with us this morning. He had an appointment to go to this morning. Walt also runs something called the Interview Success Workshop. It's on Tuesday mornings. It's once again, it's also totally free. He's here to help you rehearse what you're going to do. When you go to the Pick Crew, it's a real practice interview. I mean, they conduct it like a real interview. It's a panel interview. Walt is going to ask you a question, and then you'll stop and you'll talk about, after you give the answer, you'll stop and talk about the question. How well did you do it? If you've you'll really appreciate what Walt does. He spends the time with you to do things. If you've got that QR code that's there on the side, we'll start an email to him to schedule that. And if you want more information, just go to look up Walt Glass on LinkedIn. You open up his about section, everything is there that'll tell you what it is, what you need to do, how you need to prepare. He does want your resume just so we can see what it is you're looking for. So just check out Walt online and he will be glad to schedule. And it's really for those people who've done it, I think have really appreciated what they've done and what they get out of his interview. All right, it's time for the career tip of the week. Good morning, Rosanna. Happy New Year. I know it's a long one this week, so I'll let you get started.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. All right. Well, Happy New Year. Okay, so then this week's tip of the week is dated January the 8th, and it's which connections really help you find a job? So in summary, experiments involving 20 million people generated a surprising finding. Moderately weak connects and not strong connections are the most useful in finding a new job. To be more specific, the ties that are the most helpful for finding a new job tend to be the moderately weak. They strike a balance between exposing you to a new social circle and information and having enough familiarity and overlapping interests so that the information is useful. The findings are important, not for you job seekers, but they also have implications for managers seeking new hires. So whom should you connect to in the next time you're looking for a job? To answer this question, we analyzed data from multiple large-scale randomized experiments involving 20 million people to measure how different types of connections impact job mobility. Our results published recently in Science magazine show that strong ties, namely your connections to immediate coworkers, close friends, and family, were actually the least helpful for finding new opportunities and securing a job. You'll have better luck with your weak ties, which they're the more infrequent arm-length relationships with acquaintances. To be more specific, the ties that are most helpful to finding new jobs tend to be moderately weak. They strike a balance between exposing you to new social circles and information and having enough familiarity and overlapping interests that the information is very useful. Our findings uncovered the relationships between the strength of a connection as measured by the number of mutual connections prior to connecting, and the likelihood that that job seeker transitions to a new role within the organizations of a connection. The observation that weak ties are more beneficial for finding a job is not new. Sociologist Mark Granovetter first laid out this idea in a seminal 1973 paper that described how a person's network affects their job prospects. Since then, the theory known as the strength of weak ties has become one of the most influential in the social sciences, underpinning network theories of information diffusion, industry structure, and human cooperation. Despite the longevity of influence of Granovetter's hypothesis, there's never been a more definitive causal test using large-scale data. This is because people's networks evolve simultaneously with their jobs, making it extremely difficult to run the large-scale experiments needed to test the theory. It is also for this reason that most studies in this area have resorted to correlational analysis, making it hard to know if it actually was because a tie was a weak tie that someone got a job, because of confounding factors like their seniority or the fact that the company was growing rapidly. Our work addresses this gap using data from the largest professional networking platform in the world, which is LinkedIn. In particular, we leveraged a standard part of the modern recommender engines, A/B testing, and then as AI modules that drive these recommendation algorithms are constantly improved, new versions of these rigorously tested using randomized experiments to ensure that they were well used for all users And given scale of digital platforms, these experiments tend to be massive, running on tens of millions of users. We analyzed data from multiple experiments of this kind on LinkedIn's People You May Know algorithm, which recommends new connections to LinkedIn members. The worldwide experiments spanning 5 years randomly varied the composition of connection recommendations in the networks of over 20 million people, and during which time 2 billion new ties and 600,000 new jobs were created. By chance, these tests varied the prevalence of weak and strong ties in recommendations, and it was actually this variation that we leveraged. Our causal analysis confirmed that weaker ties increased the likelihood of job transitions, the most providing the first large-scale causal test for the weak ties hypothesis, and suggesting several updates to the theory with important real-life implications. So first, when it comes to finding a new job, moderately weak ties are the most useful and the strongest ties are the least. For instance, compared with extremely weak ties with one mutual friend, a new tie with 10 mutual friends nearly doubles the probability of changing jobs. Second, while weak ties are important, on average, they are especially vital in the industries with high degrees of IT and software adoption, integration of machine learning, and artificial intelligence, and roboticization. That is most likely because the state of the art in these industries tends to evolve rapidly, and keeping up with all the developments of is critical for success. That is why weak ties that provide access to diverse communities with a broad exposure to new technological and methodical developments are so valuable. And then finally, our findings suggest that weak ties are even more important in industries that are friendly to remote work. As the world is transitioning to a hybrid or work from anywhere future, creating and cultivating weak ties will become even more essential for career success. The takeaways for job seekers are clear. You should actively manage, broaden, and diversify your digital social network, as weak ties can materially impact your job prospects, job mobility, promotions, and even wages. For workers in digital industries or roles where the technology is rapidly evolving, weak ties provide novel information and bridges to new communities and opportunities. Those doing remote work must especially take note, because such arrangements make water cooler conversations and unplanned run-ins with new people very difficult. But job seekers aren't the only ones impacted by these results. Managers are too. Our findings highlighted the value of an expansive and open network when trying to source and hire top diverse candidates. An enormous amount of recruiting and hiring now happens through digital platforms such as LinkedIn, and it's vital. Understanding how they work and utility of algorithms such as the People You May Know will maximize managers' reach and ability to hire quality talent. By looking beyond the usual suspects within his or her close circles and expanding job searches to the frontiers of his or her networks, could land a manager a new star employee. This in turn may drive innovation, a key engine of corporate and economic growth. Beyond job seekers and managers who are hiring, our work highlights the importance of actually managing algorithms. Today, many parts of organizations and the digital economy are impacted to some extent, governed by AI. These algorithms have the power to promote economic access, improve efficiencies, and even redesign firms' operating models. This is why AI requires careful managerial oversight and long-term analysis of the causal impact of deploying these algorithms to millions of people. As an example, LinkedIn has built internal tools to track and address the unintended impacts of every new feature on its platform. As our work shows, when used effectively, social media platforms like LinkedIn can increase economic value for employers and employees throughout the algorithms that help connect people with the right contacts. So whether you're a job seeker, manager, or recruiter, be thoughtful and open to about growing your networks online, and think twice before you ignore a connection recommendation from the people you may know algorithm. Your second degree network, the connections of your connections, is a portal to a whole world of opportunities. Well, that is this week's tip of the week, dated January the 8th, which connections really help you find a job.
Rosanna,
Have a
thank
great
you.
weekend.
Great. Thank you very, very much. I know that was a long one, but when I read that and when I first saw that, I thought, man, this is really interesting that your best connections are not the best way to find your next job. And it was just like, oh, I got to make sure I share this because, and they seem to really do a really good study to be able to prove it. So for those who are out there, start working on your second and third degree connections, and that may be the way to go. All right, for lunch today, hopefully some of you will come join us today. 11:45, we're going to go to Country Burger, 3115 West Parker Road in Plano. It's on the northwest corner of Parker and Independence, a burger, salad, more. If you want that burger that's pictured on the left-hand side, you do need to bring your own ham. They don't have ham to put on there. And that burger will cost you about $33, I think is what they said last time I was there. So I did take a picture of it and ask them to price it out for us. But yeah, you have to bring your own ham. So please come join us. Burgers, chicken, salad. Come join us, Country Burger at 11:45 this morning. Just a friendly reminder, Career DFW and the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group are two different organizations. Career DFW is a website and a nonprofit that I started back in 2008 to help those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and now around the United States. The North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group is a group that's been meeting since the late 1990s right here at Christ United Methodist Church in Plano. It's a bunch of great people who get together on Friday mornings. They share contacts. They get to know each other. There are two different organizations. The common thread at this point is that I happen to lead both. If you'd like to overthrow me and take over the North Dallas Friday group, you're welcome to do that, but you're not going to get Career DFW out of my hands. I just thought I'd throw that out there. All right. So this is not the Friday group of Career DFW. Career DFW doesn't have any networking groups. It's just, we're sort of just an overall group, an overall umbrella that tries to put everything you need to know about your job search in one place. All right, in just a couple minutes here, we're going to start open forum for our main event today. Usually we do this on the first Friday of every month, but because we didn't have a meeting last Friday, we'll do it today, and then we'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about in just a couple minutes. Upcoming the next 2 Fridays, we're going to talk about branding. Fred Schlesinger did this presentation a year ago, and I thought it was really interesting. I thought this is a great way to kick off 2023. We did this with 2022 about branding. How do you brand yourself? How do you tell people who you are and what you do? And so he's got a sort of a 2-part seminar. We'll do part 1 next week and part 2 in 2 weeks. Oops, sorry about that. I didn't pop them up there. All right. What we'd like you to do, especially for those people that are on Zoom, we'd love to be able to see your smiling faces. We see some of the faces of people here who've gotten in the middle of the camera, and for those off to the side, if you want to move, fine. If you don't, that's okay too. But we'd love to see, for those on Zoom, please pop on your camera so we can see who you are. All right. So our main event is we're going to talk all about whatever it is you would like to talk about. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see who's out there. And there we go. We start to see everybody popping up on the screen. Make it a little bit bigger there. So you're welcome. Unmute your mic. There's a mic here. If anybody here wants to ask a question, please grab the mic and ask away. And comments, it's up to you all. Please, this is your time to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. Questions, comments? Problem you're having in your job search? What do you see in your job search?
I've
Right.
got one for you, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
In some of the different workshops that you can see on the calendar, it's been mentioned that when you are in career transition and not currently employed, to go ahead and put that you do have a job. What do you recommend to put as the title, or, you know, if we are taking these different workshops and things like that?
Right. Well, all right, so here's my recommendation. If somebody else has got a suggestion, please let us know. My recommendation on LinkedIn is that you create yourself a current job title. It starts whenever your last job ended. And the job title is 2 or 3 job titles that you would be interested in. You know, general manager, operation manager, director of manufacturing. So you put that in as a job title. Then for the company name, you put in your email address and or your phone number. And then in the description of the job, you list 2 or 3 bullet points of your successes, what you've done to succeed in being in that role. And then the very last line, I would say, you know, looking for new opportunity, feel free to reach, you know, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to reach out, whatever, some kind of, you know, action statement, call to action, telling people what it is you've done. You leave that on there until you get your next job. When you get your next job, you just delete that off your profile, and you know, it's not there anymore. But this way you get a current job, and LinkedIn will mark it as a current job. Now, I know that a few months ago, LinkedIn created a new function that allows you to say that you're currently laid off, or you're currently, you know, on sabbatical, or you're currently doing, you know, they gave several different categories, taking care of a family member or whatever. I'm not a fan of that, really. I like this other thing, because what you've done is, by listing a couple job titles, it's more keywords. You're putting more keywords in your job in LinkedIn profile, so that if somebody's typing for a general manager or whatever your job title is, that's going to pop up more than once, because hopefully you have those same job titles up underneath your name, under, you know, on your profile. Somebody else have a different suggestion? I know I've seen some people go and list, you know, if you're taking care of a family member, you know, you've been doing that, you know, you've listed that because you haven't been in the job search market. But when you do that, list 3 or 4 things that tells people what you've done. You've been in charge of medication, you've been in charge of handling bills and whatever. Put down a couple of things of what you've done, but also at the very bottom of that, just you need to list that, you know, the situation has been taken care of, or I'm no longer responsible, or something to let people know that you're not still tied into trying to take care of a family member and working for a full-time job.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Comments? Anybody else comment about that? Yes, no, like that idea? Okay. All right, what else? Another question. It's gonna be a really short meeting if y'all don't come up with stuff, okay? What else?
Well, Jeff, since you opened it up to comments, I know we've got a couple of people here that are new, and I think we probably have a person or 2 on the Zoom call that are new. And I remember both times when I was laid off in the last few years, what new feels like. And so if you're sitting out there thinking, well, gosh, I'm not even sure what question I should ask at this point. I think one of the things that I would recommend is the Career DFW site is a great site, careerusa.org, to start searching like how to get your resume going. There's even a link at the very bottom that says, I just got laid off. Now, what do I do? Would really encourage you to take some time to go through those materials. You know, this is after you've worked through the weekend or worked through the week that you needed to take where you were just scared, angry, and upset. And that's real. But once you are ready to really lock in, I found my biggest challenge was it felt like there were like 8 different things that I should be doing: resume, LinkedIn, networking, getting ready for interviews. And I had no idea where and how to get started. I think the first thing is just to get started. And this is a great place to do that, to start getting some structure and foundation so that you can get moving forward. And I don't want to take all the time, even if it is just a few minutes, but I think the Walt Glass course, one of the things that I think is always really important to understand about that is free. And you don't have to be in the Dallas area. You can do it via Zoom. In fact, I think they're doing all of them by Zoom these days. And that was, for me personally, was a game changer. I went from getting no second interviews to getting a number of second interviews, certainly the first time I got laid off a few years ago. And it was all really credit to Walt for helping me understand how to open, how to ask questions during the interview, and how to close. He's got a really simple process to help you get started. And if you haven't interviewed for a while, even if you have, I did it more than once. And every time I did it, I got better. Full disclosure, I happen to be a volunteer on the pit crew, but I think the order I would go is do the best you can to get your resume together and get some details together so that you can do this on your own. And once you feel like you've got a decent plan for interviewing, and it doesn't have to be well crafted, but just well enough that when you go to Walt's class, you have some idea of how you might answer the questions he's going to ask, then he can get you to a place where you're going to start improving that. And then to practice that, going to the pit crew is a great way to do that. And the key to all of this is none of this costs you anything. One thing you can guarantee that will happen is as people find out that you're looking for a job, you're going to start getting emails from people that can get you a job in 60 days and 70 days and 90 days. They can get you an interview in a month or whatever. And if you haven't seen those yet, you probably will. I don't think I'm unique in that. I get a lot of emails from a lot of places that they've got the secret and they're willing to sell it to you for, in many cases, several $1,000s. I have not done that. I don't know if it works. Maybe it does. But if you're like me, when I'm looking for a job, I just don't have big piles of cash laying around that I can give to somebody to make that process easier. You can't really do it well on your own, but there are people here that will help you, and they're not going to ask for anything in return. And that's one of the things that's just really incredible about Career DFW and this meeting here today. So I'll stop there. But if you are new and that's kind of giving you some time to think of some questions, this is a great time to get some help. And if you think it's a dumb question, there might be 4 or 5 other people here that will really appreciate that you did ask that question.
Yeah, there are no dumb questions. I do want to say real quickly for those people who were part of, I mean, David started out, sort of being prepared, spend the weekend getting ready before you jump into your job search. Yesterday, I know Anthony was on the networking call yesterday. The one thing I remember from the speaker yesterday was, he was in the military and he talks about, when you're ready, you go ready, aim, fire. And he said most people in their job search go ready, fire, and they don't aim. They don't plan what they're going to do. You may need to, and it's okay if you need 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to get your resume together, practice a little bit how to do things, get your contacts going before you actually apply for that first job. So I thought, to me, that was the statement yesterday that I really liked, ready, aim, and then fire. Don't just jump to ready, fire, because then you're just scatter shooting what you're doing. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Doug Maxim. Jeff, how long have you been doing this group?
I've had this group since 2007.
Okay, so I moved here about 17 years ago, and I think I've been through this group maybe 5 times or 6. And anyway, I found that the resources that are described here were fabulous. And the interesting thing is how they've changed over time. This is my first post-COVID meeting, and it's incredibly different from pre-COVID. But The one thing I want to reiterate what was just shared on the free training you can get, both, and in fact, you can find it for resumes, for the interviewing, and Walt's training is excellent. And once you get that, go into the pit crew, once you have a job that you want to interview for, is fabulous. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned yet that I found to be one of the most powerful things in my job search was doing informational interviews and finding people in the industry I want to work in, just going to talk to them, not asking for a job, but asking them for what it takes to do the job I want to do, and ask them at the end of the interview, do you have anyone else I could talk to? And by that, you start building your network in the industry you want to use. And that is pretty much how I found every one of my jobs, was by networking into people already in the industry.
Well, Doug, you weren't here when everybody gave their 30-second reduction. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Doug Maxim. I have, since the early 90s, I've been involved with information security, which has morphed hugely over the years. And currently, the last probably 8 years, I've been involved in third-party risk management, which is burgeoning because companies need to prove that they're protecting their data, particularly from those they hire to process their data, like ADP or payroll or anything like that. So that's what I do right now. I'm with Frontier Communications doing that. And one of the things I contribute probably is as a coach or encourager. One thing I didn't mention that I also like to do is, when you're in a job search, having an accountability partner, someone you meet with once a week, just to talk over what you're doing, have them bounce ideas off on where you can go, that sort of thing. And that's pretty much what I do to contribute. Sorry, that was over 30 seconds.
No, that's okay. No. Great. I mean, we have plenty of time here, and I mean, the whole point of this is to get to know each other and see how we can help each other, in our job search. Comments, questions? Anybody else? Comment, question about your job search, please. 11:45 is a long way away. Yes. Here. Get the mic passed around. Oop, you gotta turn it on. Oop. There we go.
I'm Gary Stillman. One thing that I would recommend is get to know the people connected with either Walt's group or the pit crew. And then also try to set it up where you can attend what I call sample meetings, sample presentations of other people doing interviewing. If you can get in contact with Mark or Ron, the two people who've been running the pit crew, try to get to know them, find out, when you can attend meetings to get a better feel for what they can offer you.
I will say, I know that I talked to Ron Wednesday after we did interviewing Wednesday, and his plan is in the next month or two to start meeting at least twice a month in person, so that if anybody wants to come watch somebody else being interviewed, you'd be able to come do that. So that will be starting up here in the next month or two. At least we'll do twice a month. We'll do it just online, and the other twice a month we'll do it, in person, to be able to watch an in-person interview. So that will, just keep up with the emails, and you'll hear about it. Anybody, what else we have about your job search? What else can we talk about? What are you all seeing in your job search? Are you seeing more jobs out there, less jobs out there? What's your crystal ball tell you? Anybody? Do I have to call on people?
No, I've got another question for you, Jeff. It's Alexandra.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the biggest things that I'm struggling with is I'm kind of what you would consider an associate or a mid-level professional. So I'm not quite executive. I don't have enough experience in anything under my belt other than customer service, which is of course the transferable skill. So when it comes to job searching, I've basically been running into the wall of seeing mostly entry level. Do you have any recommendations on how to kind of narrow down that field so that I'm not kind of lost in the black hole?
Suggestions? Suggestions, anybody?
I don't know if this is your lucky day or not, but since we do have a pretty quiet crowd today, I'll mention a couple of things that I think would be really important for you to do. And the first one is when you started your comment, you mentioned things that you don't have. And I think it's always important when you're going out and doing a job search is to, yes, recognize if you have gaps, like if there's a software that you don't know how to use, look for ways to learn about it. But if you're going into a job saying, well, I've never been a manager before and I've never done this and I've never done that, I think sometimes it's that mindset that can actually help drive you towards more of an entry level job because it feels like it's more of an obvious, not quite such a big hill to climb. I think what I would do is I would recommend that you find someone who's working in customer service, maybe at a different level, somebody who's doing, like the first thing that comes to mind for me is I have a friend that works for an insurance company and he's a relationship manager. And I don't think anybody would think his job was an entry level job. He actually gets paid very well. He's never been a manager. I don't think he has any particular, he doesn't have a master's degree. He has a degree from, I think, Georgia State. And he's done very well, probably done a lot of the same kind of things that you've done, worked his way up to where he can have this job. But I think the skills that he brings are his ability to build relationships, connect with customers, understand their issues, and to work with the sales team to help meet those needs. And that's what I would do is I would focus on the things that you have learned in the role that you have or the roles that you've had and think about how can you best apply those maybe in a job in a different industry or an industry that values the type of experience that you have. And if you, in fact, as I'm thinking about this, if you want, I would be willing to connect you to him. I'm sure you can find other people that have done similar jobs. But I think that would be my first step is to try to use that weak connections on LinkedIn, find somebody that's doing something at a different level than you are and talk with them about how did they go from where you are to where they are. And my guess is you'll start to get some ideas about either ways you can position yourself or some things that you can do in the interim to gain that, not only that confidence, but that ability to share with a hiring manager that you can actually stretch out of the field that you're in into a different industry, into a different role, and that you're ready to do that. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, Gary's got some comments as well.
Going back to what was mentioned earlier, one way that you can get on top of the, instead of having the introductory positions, is in terms of the informational interviewing. You can go as high as you want in that particular area. And I would definitely use that to move forward.
You mentioned the black hole, and I think, oh, here, Doug wants, I think you mentioned the black hole, and I think that if you're only filling out applications online, you're really wasting a lot of time. There was a speaker who comes down here from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and she says, never apply for a job online unless they ask you, have you applied to our company? Because you've already had an interview, you've already talked with somebody inside the company. So, if you need to be doing informational interviewing, you need to be doing more informational interviews than filling out online applications. If you see something you're interested in, how can you network into that company? That's the key. And how can you talk to somebody there? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, actually, now I'll make 2 points. One is on the informational interviewing. Well, actually, before I go there, Alexandra, are you interested in staying in customer service, or do you want to move out of that into something else where you can transfer your skills?
I'm very flexible. I like to be challenged. I like to, well, I mean, same thing, rise to the occasion. I am constantly putting myself in a situation where I want to learn more and to expand myself. So even with my last position, it was in the manufacturing industry. And my manager, or the original manager who hired me, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing other than the fact that I could do it in data entry. I'm like, okay. So you basically take what you know, and then as soon as you start getting into different assignments, you figure out, okay, what are the skills that I can use to apply to that and to make it change? And I grew with it in the position, and then I even cross-trained into a different position. So definitely not opposed to moving into a different industry altogether. I just know that I have an affinity to help people. And again, that's a commonality in any industry. It's just determining how I want to do that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, what you're talking about is a very marketable skill. A lot of people don't have good people skills and have that kind of ability to instantly establish a camaraderie or make people think they're friendly. And so that's a very valuable skill that I think you could capitalize on. But the whole one of the advantages of an informational interview is you can ask questions like you just posed to us in an informational interview. I seem to only be getting requests for entry-level jobs. Do you have any suggestions on how I might get into something a little more, a mid-level or something like that? That could be, you could, refine that and work that into an informational interview. Let's see, Jeff said something that was spot on that I wanted to elaborate on, but I've forgotten it. So.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Alexandra, was that helpful?
Very, I think that definitely helps a lot. And I really loved, I think it was Doug who said it. I really love the idea of, having that accountability and everything. So that's something that I'm going to try to work on as well.
Yeah,
I tried.
Yeah, reach out, starting an accountability group is always a great idea. If you haven't done so, I'll put in the email I put out this afternoon with everybody's contact information, I will put down the video that talks about information interview. I'll put out the video that talks about how to form an accountability group if you haven't. So those will be a couple of things that, if you have an opportunity to watch this weekend, that would be great.
Thank you so much.
Another area that you could look at is what I call associational meetings. American Marketing Association, or any particular market segment. When you go to those meetings, you can go as high as you want.
Don't forget to go to those, groups are starting to meet again in person. Hey, this is great today. We've got 7 people here today. This is a new record post-COVID. Doug talked about, he's been here several times, and back in the day, we used to have 40 to 60 people show up here on a Friday morning. So yeah, it's just, we really, hope that, you come back out, put your pants on and get out of the house. Okay. That's what we're telling people. Put your pants back on. But yeah, I will put those out. Go ahead.
Jeff, I think one of the things would be very important. As people at the beginning of the year, we always make New Year's resolutions, whether you believe in it or not. We make these things that we think we want to accomplish in the coming year that we're in. I'm thinking about the tip of the week that she read this morning, Rosanna read this morning, and it talks about the second and third connection of people, how important those people are to you. Then I'm thinking about the young lady that spoke to us about 6 weeks ago. She talked about reaching back to all the people in your connection that you've forgotten about. So you could relate that to your second and third connections. and you reach out to those people that probably have some information that you can help utilizing with information interviews and things of that nature, be a huge win for all of us.
And, you know, the other thing, and I know, and Anthony and I, we've talked about this, Anthony's been coming for the last several weeks, you know, especially once we started meeting back again, it was just a couple of us here, is that when we get done here at our meeting, the seven of us that are here, we're going to spend 15, 20 minutes or a half hour even getting to really know each other a lot more. If you all don't come join us today at lunch, you know, at least we'll still get to know you, what you're looking for, how we can help you. You know, we sort of lose that when you're online because you miss that in-person being able to connect before the meetings, hanging out after the meeting. So, you know, I really encourage you, you know, in the future, if you want to come, the room is plenty big enough. You can stay 6 feet apart away from us. Good air circulation in here. You're welcome to wear a mask here if you like, whatever. We just want to make you feel comfortable. But I think you will get more out of coming and meeting people in person because you'll get to know people a lot better and find out more. I know about Anthony. I know, you know, about David because, you know, we've gone out to lunch. You know, they've been here many times over the last several weeks. So, you know, another thing to add to your New Year's resolution is maybe, you know, come visit us. We don't bite. None of the networking groups bite. They're just here to help you. All right, what else can we answer for somebody? Question you got, how to get started in something, how to finish in something. What Anthony mentioned earlier about the speaker we had several weeks ago was one lady talked about everybody you know is in your cell phone. You just need if there's people in your cell phone that you haven't reached out to in a year, reach out to them. But if you have a picture of them, if you have a picture of the two of you all doing something, send a picture. Hey, I just ran across this picture. Hey, how you doing? Happy New Year. How you doing? And, you know, make those connections with people who you used to know. Questions? Come on, job search. Come on, got to have some job search questions here. You're starting out. What do you tell us, you know, what are you finding? What's the stumbling block? Grab the mic here.
I think for me, one of the biggest things is, to be honest, I'm kind of hoping to move away from Texas, kind of hopefully get a job somewhere else. And so I do have a lot of contacts. They're just all local contacts and people here. And I'm just trying to figure out, you know, is it going to be possible for me to like find a job in the near future that's not in Texas? So that's kind of one of the obstacles I'm running into and getting people to call me back.
Where do you want to move?
I'm not entirely sure yet,
Okay.
just somewhere else for a while.
All right. Well, I'll tell you a little story. Back when I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, I wanted a job in Rochester, New York. And I spent probably 2 or 3 months making contact with people in New York, in Rochester. And I sort of kept a track of, you know, I kept record. This is pre-cell phone. This is pre-email, in fact, even. I mean, you had to pick the phone up. You went to a phone book, you went to the public library to find out what businesses are there. And I found that it was my 7th degree connection. So I talked to person A who, every time I talked to somebody, it always was, well, who else do you recommend in that area? And person A talked to person B, told me C, D, E, F. So it was the 7th connection. And that's what got me my job. And that's how I was able to move up to Rochester. So I think it's, once again, like Doug said, it's information interview. Nowadays it's easy. You can pick up the phone, you can have Zoom calls with people. It's really easy to make those connections. And it's just where you think you want to go. Who can you find out? Can you tell them you don't ask for a job? You're just looking for information and advice. Those are the 2 keywords I like to use. Right. Right. So, you know, it's all about just reaching out to people and just saying, keeping track of. And then when you talk to somebody, well, who else do you recommend I talk to? I'm just looking for advice and information and advice.
The one thing that I would recommend is go to people like Jeff that are head of different groups. And it's amazing how the tentacles that we have all over the United States, how beneficial for people. So whether it's a foster way in.
But I hate to burst your bubble. I also have a degree in broadcasting, and I would advise anybody do something else. I hate to say it, I would advise anybody to do something else than being in the broadcast field, because it doesn't pay a whole lot. It's got to be something else.
Specific. In addition to Jeff's group, I have also gone to Southwest Focus.
Right.
For some reason, they get a whole lot of media. Go to that group. So you might try that one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, try the groups that are out there. I mean, when you're first, especially first in job search, check the different groups that are out there, see what they're like. You don't want to spend all day. There used to be a gentleman in the DFW area that he went to the Monday morning group, the Monday afternoon group, the Tuesday morning group, the Tuesday afternoon group, the Wednesday morning group, the Wednesday afternoon group. And by Friday, he'd already gone to 9 different groups. And I'd ask him, so when did you look for a job? Because all he did was sort of be the social butterfly and go from group to group to group to group to group. So you don't want to do that, but find, 2 or 3 of the groups that are out there that are beneficial, and you make those connections and it will make a difference. I do know that there are a couple media people that are in the Career DFW LinkedIn group. So I've seen a few of them joining there. Be sure, join the group, reach out, search media, think about it. I mean, when I did my first job search, Doug, David, Anthony, when we first started our job search, Gary, we didn't have the internet. We just had we'd look through the newspaper, or somebody would call up at Career Connections and you go through the red binders there in the day. It was everything right now you need is right in front of you. So just use the tools that are there. But yeah, I'll put out information reviewing accountability groups. Those are 2 really great sessions to go back and take a look at. What
I
else?
would also, Jeff,
Yes.
I was just going to make one further comment. I would also suggest plugging into maybe some local activity groups, perhaps in the areas that you're talking about, plugging into, or I know a lot of people in some of the workshops here in DFW, they plug into Pat Romboletti's calls, or some of the social type groups and everything. Don't just plug into professional groups, because the social ones present an even more possibility of connecting with people.
Right. Things like meetup.com, JC's, Knights of Columbus, all those kinds of groups, because those are great ways to network with other people. Yeah, meetup.com, there's meetups that do everything, whatever you're interested in.
Absolutely. And it also creates, going back to improving your mindset, having the positivity and everything, it creates that balance within yourself, so that it is easier when you go back to sit down, or to go back to the job search or anything like that. It just kind of gives you that energy and that motivation to keep moving forward.
And also don't forget about volunteering at different organizations. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities, probably not as many as there were pre-COVID, but if you can find that volunteer opportunity, meet with other people who are, doing the same kind of social action things that you're doing, you never know who's going to be able to help you.
Also tap into alumni.
Yes, alumni associations. Yep, go back and your alumni association. I know we had a gentleman here in this group who applied for a job, and the guy in HR happened to go to the same school. Now, they went to school in South Carolina or North Carolina, something, if I remember, but he was in HR. They graduated 20 years apart from each other, but because he happened to see the same university, the guy in HR reached out just as an alumni, or, as a dual alumni, to be able to talk to each other. So that's also a really great way to meet people and reach out to them. All right, what else? Ernesto, you're just sitting there looking. Come on. You don't have a question for us? Something?
Honestly, I'm drawing a blank right now. I mean, everybody's covering a lot of really great information here.
What do you think
Um,
job search? I mean, you've been out now a couple months. What are you seeing? Or why don't you tell us your 30-second, tell us who you are, what you're doing and what you're looking for.
Sure. My name is Ernesto Weber. I'm was most recently a software test engineer. Was most recently employed with E4D Technologies. I basically help companies by finding the bugs in their software before their customers do. So in terms of my job search, yeah, I mean, there's a decent amount of jobs out there, and I've actually had a pretty good amount of luck with most of the success I've had have been through applying online. I'm actually a little amazed at how responsive that's been. So I've had a few good interviews, and still sort of, and I'm still sort of looking.
Okay. Don't rule out not applying online. It's just one of those tools that I think people need
Oh
to
yeah.
do it. You probably want to do it, before 9 o'clock in the morning. You want to do it after 6 o'clock at night. Don't do it during don't do it during business hours when you can actually have conversations with other people. I guess that's the key. And I think I've heard it applying on Tuesday is the most effective day to apply for a job. I think that's a past tip of the week. Tuesday, yeah. Because everybody's busy on Mondays. They're trying to get back in their work routine, but Tuesdays and people start looking through what they need to do. There was a gentleman in this group who used to apply every morning at 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, he'd apply for jobs. And one day a recruiter called him up and says, "Why is it that your name pops up every morning? I run my list at 8 o'clock in the morning and your name is always the first one on the list every day." And the guy says, "Well, I just keep applying for the same job, or I'm applying for the job, but I do it at 7:30 in the morning, knowing that you're about to run your report." And so that way he was popping up early on this recruiter's list. So doing it early in the morning is probably a good idea. All right, what else can we talk about? Jane, you want to tell us who you are and what you're doing? Surprise.
Big surprise. I've been a technical writer for many years, and I had a midlife crisis and went back to grad school and got a master's in linguistics. And now I'm trying to put the two together and get a gig documenting projects where they're doing computational linguistics for machine learning, artificial intelligence, semantic analysis, sentiment analysis, stuff like that.
And what do you
And a lot of companies are doing that nowadays.
see in the job market?
Pardon me?
What do you see, jobs that are opening, or what do you see?
Well, I have a classmate who's working as a data linguist at Amazon, and he said he's heard rumors that they're about to lift the job. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they're about to open up again. They have a freeze right now. They're about to open up the freeze. So, so I don't know, maybe things are starting to warm up. Hard to tell.
Okay. All right. What else? Question, somebody, something in your job search? Tell us where, let's see here. Tori, tell us a little bit, who's got the mic? Pass it over to Tori for a second. We're gonna make Tori talk. Is it on? You have to flip it on if it's not on. How'd you hear about us, and tell us who you are and what you do?
Right. So I can be on
Come
camera.
over. Yeah, all right. Here we go.
All right. My name's Tori Woodhouse. I'm a security cleared IT engineer. I am also Splunk certified and CISSP and other things with Cisco. I help companies solve technical problems. My name's Tori Woodhouse. And the other question was, what?
How did you hear about this group?
Well, I knew about Career DFW. And so I went to the calendar because I've been going to South Lake Focus Group for the past few weeks. And I just wanted something closer
Okay.
because I live in Aubrey and it's about an hour drive one way. It was almost a little over half to get here. And I thought I'd try it out, see what we're doing in Collin County.
Okay. Well, thank you. How do you see your job search going? What are you seeing out there?
I was thinking about that when you asked the question. I can't think of anything particularly remarkable. It's pretty much what I expected. I resigned my job in November because I wasn't doing the work that I was hired to do. And as an engineer, that made me uncomfortable because one of my biggest fears is to become irrelevant. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to not do what you're tasked, what you're expecting to be tasked to do. Another way is to not even do, is to only do what you've done in the past. And that's a challenge that I see. And I knew that going into the job search that sometimes people aren't able to read between the lines and they only want to know about what you've done. And as an engineer, it's like, I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I do have some new skill. Can we leverage what it is I already know to go more in depth with that? And I also kind of knew that things would be a little light around the holidays. There would be some activity, but probably not as many conversions. People wouldn't pull the trigger as much because they're taking a brain vacation until now. I expected things to pick up this week, and it has, I guess. I'll have to leave a little early because I do have a second interview coming up at noon.
Very good.
By the way, it came from a little bit about the what we were hearing about, and I'd like for you to send me that article. What was it, Career US, that we were reading about LinkedIn, and the second
Your secondary connections. That's the tip of the week. It's on the Career DFW and Career USA.
okay, I'll look it up that way.
Great banner.
Well, I didn't have 500 connections. And so on Christmas Eve, what I did, having a clearance, I looked at LinkedIn a little differently in the past. Quite a few people I know who are cleared don't have a lot of connections because we just don't want to be targets. But taking it to heart, I went back to all of the people who had sent me messages back to 2017. I could have gone further, but I just went that far and said, thank you for reaching out. I'd like to connect. Let me know how I may help you. And then that put me over 500 like the next day. And one of those people is the one that's helping me get this interview, this second interview. He reached out to me back in 2018. And it just so happens to be for a company that also reached out to me in September that I didn't remember. The timing wasn't right because I had sold my house in Virginia, or at least it was under contract, and I was looking to come back here to Texas. So I've been here a couple, 3 months now. It just wasn't the right timing, but it is now. And so looking forward to closing on that on Friday the 13th. That'll be some good news for what's, suspiciously, or if you're suspicious, can be a bad luck day, but I'm looking to turn it into a good luck day.
Yeah, you never know where you get the connection at.
You say you have a clearance, an active clearance.
I do.
If you'd be interested in Raytheon Technologies, let me know. I just left there after 2 years.
Sure.
And he's got business cards because I have one. He came prepared. All right. Well, great. So you never know connections. You never know reaching back out to those connections, especially those weak connections. That really can be a big, big help. Great, great, great. Tori, thank you for being with us. Thanks for coming and joining us today. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Well, you just mentioned business cards, Jeff. So what kind of information as a job seeker would you suggest to put on a business card?
Well, your name, your email address, your phone number, and maybe your LinkedIn address, and maybe what it is you do. What do you want to do? And they can be really simple. They can be really involved. They can have color. They can just be black and white. You can print. Personally, I print my own cards. I have 3 different cards. I carry a Career DFW card, a Career USA card, Then I have my personal card that I actually have two different personal cards. One that sort of has my work email address, and then I have one that has my private home, not my private, but my email address for my family. You know, that if I was at a family reunion or something, I could say, here's my email address if you want it. So, you know, it's as much or as little as you want to share, but you want to make sure that people can write on the back of the card. You can have a little bit on the back, but not a whole lot. In this case, here's Tori's card. I'll put it up here so you can sort of see it. And, you know, a little red, white, and blue on there. He's got his name. Whoop, here's his name, email address, phone number, stuff on here. And then on the back, I presume that goes to your LinkedIn profile, or where does that take you?
You to some text information that's similar to what's already on the card.
Okay, so some that, and then he's got just a few words on the back of it to tell somebody what it is he does. So, but he's left room on here, which is great, that somebody could write, oh yeah, met him at the North Dallas group, or send this connection, or send this link. You always want to make sure the back of the card, you leave some white space so people can do that. So you
And it's not glossy on the back, so a pen can write on it.
Right. Very, very important. So, you know, your QR code can take you, if you have your own web page, it can take you to your LinkedIn profile, wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, Jeff, I just wanted to give actually somewhat of a pitch for next week. When I went to Fred Schlesinger's networking meeting several years ago, he actually talks about different strategies with business cards. He's got some ideas about what colors to work, or what colors you should lean into, which ones you should not. And I actually changed my business card based on the recommendations he made. I can't tell you that it made any difference, but I felt better about it. So maybe that was a good thing.
Right. I mean, here's another one of my business cards. This is one of my business cards here. This is my personal one. I actually have my Six Sigma. I'm a Six Sigma green belt. So I've got the logo on there, but I have a little saying, better, faster, smarter. If you have a little saying you like to do, but the important stuff is, how can I reach out to you? How can I find out who you are and to be able to do stuff? And when you go to meetings, the most important thing is not handing out business cards, but the most important thing when you go to a workshop is collecting cards. Let me get your information so that I can then reach back out to you after the meeting. Other comments?
You also want to put on the card your
It's
area.
not on. There you go. Okay.
The area that you're concentrating in.
What it is you want to do. Be very, very helpful. Is that helpful, Alexandra?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's really up to you. I tell you, there's a great website. If you want to go to avery.com, Avery's got, you know, if you want to print your own cards, like I said, I print my own. You can get 200 cards for like $10 at Office Depot. You can order them online. Be sure to buy the Avery cards if you're going to print your own. There's a cheap brand called Royal Bright. It's really cheap and flimsy, but the Avery cards are really nice. And the nice thing about the Avery website is that they've got over 200 or 300 different templates that are already there. Find something you sort of like. You tell it what card format it is from the box that you bought, and then you can actually design, it'll save it, and then you do it, you do it once and it'll automatically print it out 10 times if you're printing it out onto a inkjet printer or onto a laser printer, whatever it is you're using, which is really, really handy. So, I mean, a Word document, you can do it with a Word document also, but the Avery website's a great way to sort of get started. And it gives you a lot of suggestions, and maybe a little logo of what you've done. Maybe yours has a little telephone on it because you're in customer service, you're helping people, customers, that, or maybe it has a little headset. I mean, I don't know. It's what's going to make your card memorable. I guess that's the key. What's going to make you stand out a little bit more? You don't need to put your picture on it. The only people who put pictures on business cards would be real estate agents, or if you used to work for Eastman Kodak. Everybody in Eastman Kodak always had their picture because their business cards were actually printed on film, or on, film prints that you would get. But yeah, you don't need a face, but something to make your card stand out so people will go, oh yeah, I want to talk to that person about that. Good question. What else? What else can we answer?
Okay, got another one for you, Jeff.
Okay, go ahead.
I know one of the things that you've talked about in the past was the one-page bio. So
Yes.
my question is, how do you utilize that? Like, in what situations can you utilize that, pass it on?
I think you use it everywhere. You use it more than you use a resume. When you use a resume to apply for a specific job, because you have a job description, you can customize your resume. A one-page bio is what you send out to network with people, to tell people who you are in sort of a high level way. You don't want to get in, you're not getting into all the details, but you're just telling somebody, here's who I am. It's a promotional piece. It's an ad slick. It's something that helps you. If you're going to have a network meeting with somebody, you send them the bio. So that way they have an idea of who you are. If you're going to, if you're meeting somebody at Starbucks, or if you're meeting somebody, one-on-one. And if I was having a informational interview with somebody, I would send my one-page bio so people would understand who I am. And, it's got your picture on it so people know who to look for so that you can see somebody. But I think a one-page bio is the most effective tool that you can really use in your job search, because you're trying to connect with people. When you connect with people, when you send a resume out, it screams, help me, help me, help me. I'm looking for a job. You send out a bio, you're just putting out information about who you are, and it's easier to ask for advice and information. Any comments here about one-page bios? Amy, David, you have one? Yeah, I think it's an extremely effective tool. You should be using it all the time. One of the things that Kurt Vondermeyer talks about when he does his LinkedIn presentation, he has something called the prayer letter that he likes to use. And I know somebody else who did this, take the prayer out of it, just the email letter. He liked to send an email out every 3 or 4 weeks to his connections. And I recommend you do 2 different emails, one to friend and family, and then one to professional contacts, friend, family, church members. The other one would be your professional contacts. And you started out with, the first paragraph is, I want to thank the following. I want to thank Joe and Sue and Mary for helping me over the last few weeks. Now, maybe nobody helped you, but you just mentioned some names because you're sending this out blind copy. Nobody knows who else is on the email, but you're thanking people for helping them. People like to be thanked. The second paragraph is, just as a reminder, I'm looking for a position as an XYZ, or I'm looking for contacts at the following 3 companies, or I'm looking, whatever it is your ask is, whatever you're trying to gather information on. And then, the third paragraph is, just as a reminder, this is the kinds of things I'm trying to do. The fourth paragraph is, if there's anything I can do to help you in your job search, or if anything I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out to me. Jane put a good comment in the chat window. This is a good time just to wish everybody a happy new year. You can do that during the whole month of January. Hey, happy new year. I want to thank the following people for helping me, just as a reminder, I'm in my job search, but put something out. And I recommend you do it every 3 or 4 weeks. If you're in sales, and yeah, the joke is we're all in sales because we're all trying to sell ourselves into a job. But when you're in sales, a true salesperson is going to know that it takes 4 to 7 touches to get somebody to buy into what it is you're doing. So the first time you send it out, you may not hear anything. The second time, you may get 1 or 2 phone calls. The third or fourth time, people will start going, oh yeah, Alexandra is looking for something. Oh yeah, let me see what I can do to help her. And, sometimes it's that 5th or 6th time before things will really start to happen. So that's why I like every 3 months versus once a month. But that just may be something you want to do. I have a document about the prayer letter. I will send that out with my email blast this afternoon too.
Do you personalize those prayer letters for each person you send it to, like ask
No,
about the
send it out
kids? or-
blind- You send it out blind copy. So
Okay.
ETC, everybody, you don't want to send out 60 or 80 of them. I mean, that would just take you forever. You should have 2 email lists. You put together 2 lists. One list, friends, family, church members, probably. The other list is your professional contacts, people you've had contact, you've had information interviews with or something. And, you send out blind copies. So that way, when you're mentioning, I want to thank the following people, they don't know who else is on the list. They just know that, hey, well, my name didn't get mentioned. Maybe I need to help this person so I can get mentioned next time. You set that up in their mind to see what you can do. So I'll send out, I have a document and I'll be sure to send that out about that next time.
So Jeff, one of the things that I do, if you're using Gmail, there's a customer relationship management tool called Streak, STREAK. And it actually allows you to write a letter that's fairly generic, but you can say, I want this to go to Jeff and to Anthony and to Don and 25 other people. And maybe at the bottom you say, hey, let me know how I can help you, or let me know if you're going to be in the North Dallas area and you want to go get coffee, let me know. Just don't put anything in there that somebody's going to look at it and go, well, clearly this isn't for me because I don't have children. But if you write it generically enough and you make sure, like Jeff said, you've got specific groups that you're targeting. So if you do put something in there that's relatable to them, it makes it really simple because they get it. It has their name in it. It has the message. It has your contact information. It makes it a little bit more personal. Before you do that, I do very much believe the Kurt Vonnemutter process where you should reach out to as many of these people as you can personally so that you actually have a conversation with them so that when they're getting that email, they know who you are. They've talked to you personally. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm getting that email newsletter from that guy that really needs a job again.
And remember, you're mostly asking for advice and, you're asking for advice and information. You're not asking any of these people for a job. You're just going, do you know somebody at this company? Do you know somebody, I'm thinking about changing into healthcare XYZ job. Do you know anybody who's in that field? I'd love to be able to talk to somebody about that. So it's a great way to sort of narrow down what it is you're trying to do. Information. It's a great way just to try to get some information, get some contacts, some people to talk to. All right, who else? What other questions does anybody have? Alexandra, you're full of good ones today. We'll give you bonus stars for your questions today. Scott, are you there? I think Scott's in New Jersey. You want to tell us who you are and what you're looking for? Hello, Scott. How about Shelley? Are you out there? Shelley? Okay. Anybody we miss here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. You want to tell who you are, what you do, and how we can help you?
Okay, hi, I'm Shelley Traverso, and I am an accountant, and I'm looking for specifically a senior accountant or revenue or accounting analyst type of roles are what I'm targeting. Let's see, I was part of a layoff, one of those company-wide layoffs at the end of last year. And so I've just kind of been regrouping and figuring out what I want to do next. And so I was kind of more or less focused in the AR area, and now I'm decided I'd like to go back to a more overall type of corporate accounting position with maybe more variety of responsibilities and duties. And so I do have a few questions. Okay, I was in an interview. I'll just put one out here. I had an interview at the end of last year, and was through a contract company. I had a recruiter, and then the advantage of those type of interviews is that you can receive some feedback to find out, like, if you do not receive the position, right? They usually come up with at least one reason. And the reason that came back was a new one for me. And I was just kind of wondering if this is something that I missed, or just want everyone, want your feedback as well, or your opinion. Okay, so what feedback I received was that basically that I was looking at my resume while I was in the interview. And therefore and it turns out that I was being interviewed by the SVP, no less. And that did make me kind of nervous. And I think that was one of the highest level position interviewers that I've ever had. And then I was also rusty because I had not interviewed in 7 years. And I did not take Walt's class, I do admit. Or I did not go to, and also did not go to the pit crew, which I have set as goals for 2023. After that experience, that was, the outcome was, it was not the ultimate where I received the position. Okay, so they came back and they said that I was looking at my resume, and therefore that made it questionable whether or not I knew, I knew my, I don't know, I knew my background, I knew my skills, that I could talk directly, about my skills and experience. And for me, on the other hand, I thought it was more like, I like to talk with my hands sometimes, and I like to have usually I have a pencil or a pen in my hand during an interview instead I picked up the resume. So I'm just wondering, your feedback on that, if, that is something that you should never do, is, look at your resume, because then it'll give the interviewer doubts that that you wrote the resume and you've actually, can speak about any of the experience on it.
Yeah, Shelley, this is Doug. Your lucky day. I happen to have a BS and Masters in speech communication, and interviewing was a big part of that. Yeah, the key with an interview, I find, is as quickly as you can, you want to make it conversational. And when you have a conversation with somebody over a cup of coffee, you have eye contact, and you only look at something like if you had to give them a quick phone number or address that you didn't have memorized. So to be continually looking at your resume would cause particularly an SVP some concern, but you may want to practice that. Some people say do it in a mirror. I find that challenging. A lot of times just get a friend and give them some interview questions that you particularly want to be able to handle well in an interview, and just practice them with good eye contact. And you mentioned you use your hands. That's totally fine. As long as you're not distracting, but the key really is to make it conversational. So go in with questions like you're interviewing an SVP, probably been in the industry a while, maybe even at the company for a while. And I would ask that as soon as he says, do you have any questions for me? If I hadn't already looked this up on LinkedIn, which I would have, I'd say something like, well, I noticed on LinkedIn, you've been with this company for 11 years. Well, why'd you stay? And right there, that's an open-ended question. They will answer that, and it'll be positive usually. And you start that dialogue going, and that makes the interview, I think, much more successful.
Yeah, I think, even starting, I think, yeah, you need to glance at your resume occasionally, because what it will hopefully do is it will spark a star story for you to be able to tell a story. One of the things that I recommend that everybody do, take your resume, every bullet point you have on your resume, get an index card and write down, here's my bullet point, and then here is the situation, here's the task, here's the action, and here's the result of what that is and what, just briefly, and tells you a quick little story so that you're able to tell a 60-second story about what it is on your resume that you're, that a reminder. If you have them on index cards, then you're able to sort of flip through. It's a great way to practice before you even get there. You can do it in the car while you're sitting out in the parking lot. Good luck on your interview. Oh, yep, I've got your email address. Okay, perfect. So, I guess if you looked at your resume too much, that was a detriment. I think looking at it occasionally is okay. I think Doug also brought up a very good point, is you want to turn this into a conversation as quickly as you can. One of the things that Mark and Walt talk about in one of the interview sessions is right after you've given your opening statement, you want to ask them a question. Listen, I see your job description. What are the 3 or 4 most important things on this job description that you need me to be successful in the next 6 months? Because who knows, that may be a job description that got posted that was sitting in a binder in HR for the last 8 years and really isn't what they're looking for, but it happens to be the right pay scale. So that's why, well, we'll give them this job title and this pay scale, but yeah, it's really not what, we need to do these other things. So by asking that, you've then started a conversation. Well, what is it? Now you know what to talk about, because if they tell you the 3 or 4 most important things to talk about, you want to make sure you tell a story about that. Well, can I tell you a time when I did this, which answers one of their questions? So, and if you can, come up with that list, you should go into every interview with a list of 10 questions. 5, and the goal is get 5 of those questions answered during the interview, if you can.
I wanted to point out too, Jeff did something in that question that is very useful if you can do it naturally and conversationally. He said, what 2 or 3 things would I have to do to be successful at this job? So in the interviewer's mind, you're already putting yourself in that job when you phrase it like that. And I think that's a very important thing in those questions, if you could do that.
Yeah, one of the ways I actually like to phrase it is, well, I've changed it. It used to be I'd ask that question later on, but now I've learned you want to ask it early on in the interview, because everybody you interview with is going to have, I need you to do these 2 or 3 things. You meet with 3 different people, everybody's going to have their own idea. It's nice to sort of have it, then you know what to talk about. I used to say, listen, you've hired me. It's 6 months from now. I've done an excellent job. What are the 2 or 3 things that I've done that just blew you away? But I've sort of changed it now, because I want to go, I see this job description. I think here are the 2 or 3 things I think that may be important, but can you tell me, what do you need me to do so that I'm successful? I like that terminology a little bit better now than the way I used to say it.
All right, great. Thanks. Right, thanks for the tips. And then I do have another question. I'm looking at a job that was posted today by Toyota, and they're talking about that that they have flexibility now on the work schedule, and they talk about this 9/80 work schedule to give you flexibility when you work. And then it says you could choose from alternating Fridays off, or consider the choice schedule, which allows you a fixed morning or afternoon off each week. So that's something new that I have not seen in the past, and it'd be great if more or a lot of companies follow this trend. So I'm just wondering if you know more details on that when they're giving those 9/80.
Yeah, I've seen that in the past. I mean, where you work 9 out of 10 days, you work, instead of 8-hour days, you work a 9-hour day so that you can get get all those hours in. Whether you take off a half day a week or a full day on Friday, people like the full day to get those 3-day weekends. It's been out there for a long, long time. It's just that a lot of some companies do it, some don't. My daughter's working for a company where, you know, she has unlimited PTO, so she can really take off any Friday afternoon or whatever, you know, as long as she's getting her job done, it's not a big deal. So every company's doing a little something. By them advertising it, it's sort of like a little perk that they're trying to tell people that, hey, here's an opportunity to a nice little benefit that you could have. Shelley, one of the things I would recommend though, if you want to do more diverse kinds of things as in accounting, is you may want to look for smaller companies, because when you're working in a smaller company, you have more hats to wear. You know, I think you said you were an AR, mostly AR before, but if you want to get back into more general accounting, you may not want to work for the Toyota or, you know, the big, you know, Fortune 500 companies. Look for those middle companies, because they're going to need people who can do everything. I'm sure I know you know about Robert Half. If you're on accounting, everybody knows about Robert Half, but you know, check out their jobs and see what they have. That may be to find a more general kind of accounting job.
Right. That's excellent advice. Because prior to that large company layoff, I was at a small company, and that's where I did have a position where there were just two of us CPA accountants, and we wore like all the hats of the accounting department. So the advantage was I got a lot of really great exposure and experience, and worked with the right on the same floor, right 2 doors down from the president and 4 doors down from the owner.
Right. Isn't it more interesting because you're getting to do more things? If I was just doing AR every day, I think I'd get really bored, or just doing AP or just doing payroll. Getting to do a multitude of things, I think my day would go by a little bit quicker.
Yeah, you're right. The days would go by really fast. And I think, having that previous, experience at that small company now leaves me wanting to, find something similar again, where I can be, growing and learning new things and doing a much bigger variety of duties and responsibilities.
Did you have any other questions? I know you said you had a couple more questions.
I guess I have one more. If no one else has a pressing question, then
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, on this, I'm seeing a new trend in accounting positions where they are asking for experience with like big data. And I imagine because this is Toyota's a large company, the JD that I'm looking at from this morning. And so they're asking for data mining. They're asking, they even want strong knowledge of Power BI, as well as SQL preferred. But mainly, it's the data, being not only, focusing on accounting duties, but also having knowledge or skills in big data. And so I'm kind of, just wondering if I should, take some type of courses. If, would anyone recommend just taking, looking at some YouTube videos, or would I need to get into a formal class to get some type of, certification, or, have, some kind of, course experience to document? I'm just would like some feedback or suggestions.
Yeah, this is Doug again. I've worked with several large companies where they have data scientists involved in data mining, and that involves the concept of big data. And those are very specialized databases like Hadoop and several others. And that's a very technical direction to head in, and usually takes a fair amount of computer science background in addition to your accounting background. So if you wanted, what you may want to do is just look at some videos on big data, data warehouse, and data mining to see if that's even of an interest to you. But that's what those concepts are.
Also,
Okay, yeah.
in the chat window, Rosanna put a thing about Udemy, udemy.com may have some courses that you can review. So that may be one. There's Community Foundation, there's there's several online things that you can, I'm sure you'll be able to find all sorts of stuff online. Just Google it, see if you're interested.
You can also access LinkedIn Learning through your local library, so that way you're not having to pay for it. I use that a lot, just if I want to get like a quick overview of a technology to see if I'm interested in maybe diving into it further, in which case I might. Then yeah, I agree with Rosanna. Udemy is a great is a great resource for really in-depth courses on a number of technical topics, and they frequently have sales. I always tell people, don't never pay full price for something on Udemy because they have sales a lot. Yeah, those are all great resources. And if you just want to sort of do a brief check, yeah, I also agree with I forget who was speaking over there, but yeah, check out YouTube for any videos on the topic.
Yep, got to get an idea of what it is, especially, I mean, if it's in a job description, you need to be able to talk about it a little bit. Not that you're an expert in it, because if they wanted an expert, they would be looking for somebody just, big data scientist. So, but if they just happen to mention it, I guess you may be tasked to, dive into something to see what you could find, to be able to talk the talk to a data scientist. Can you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The job description says that you'd be working with the IT department on process improvements and discussing like metrics they want to put in place for the AR department. So it's, so the position looks like it's kind of a combination of accounting and kind of being a computer guru, or just, having this big data knowledge.
Yep. All right. Any last questions before we move on here? I'll show you a few slides and we will get out of here today. Anything else? Anybody have? Anybody here locally? All right, let me just share a couple of things. We'll get out of here. So next week, as I mentioned, Fred Schlesinger, we're going to replay his presentation from last year about branding. Oops, is it popping up here? Come on, computer. There we go. So Fred will be with us to talk about branding. We'll do it'll be the next 2 weeks. We'll be sure that we will talk about. If you have not put your 30-second reductions into the chat window, I don't know you're here. And if I don't know you're here, you won't get an email this afternoon. So please make sure I've got that information in there. Rob, I don't have an email address here. If you don't mind giving me one, that would be great before you leave. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Next Tuesday, Terry Sullivan will be with us live to talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. The event will not be recorded, so if you want to watch it, you do need to watch it live, 1 p.m. Central Time next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, if you're interviewing Wednesday, Gail Bridgman will with us to talk about interviewing. Gail's been with Lee Heck Harrison for well over 10, 15 years now. I don't really know how. It's been a long, long time. She helps hundreds of job candidates with interviewing, and she's going to just give us her basics on interviewing. This being the third Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about resumes, primarily resumes based towards the ATS system as you're filling out those resumes for the black hole, how to make sure that they get through and you get found. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. on the Career USA YouTube channel. Click on playlist, and then down below, pick whichever playlist you want. There's over 400 videos there. But by clicking playlist, there's only 7 playlists. It's sort of easier to sort of narrow down what you're looking for. And down where you see that red arrow where it says view full playlist, if you click there, you'll be able to go back and find any of the topics we've talked about here at the North Dallas Group. Please note that all of our speakers usually start about 25 to 30 minutes in, so you'll just have to sort of scroll through the beginning stuff to see what we're talking about. Hopefully some of you will come join us today at Country Burger, 3115 West Parker, northwest corner of Parker and Independence, burgers, salads, and more. We'll be there at 11:45 this morning. Please come join us. I'll be there because I love their hickory sauce is my specialty. That's what gets me there. So thanks for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you.